What's up, guys? Matt Brown here for playpicks.com and thelines.com. Going to talk to you a little bit about this Monday night football game between the Texans and Saints. But before we get going here, of course, you can head over to playpicks.com as you see right here on your screen if you want to get a full written rundown of this game here, see how Juan thinks this game is going to play out. And one of the cool things we got going on over at the Lines, be sure and head to thelines.com/odds and you can get this cool odds page right here. Of course, we've got other sports. You can check out the New Jersey lines as well as the Pennsylvania lines. You can toggle between money line, spread, total, however you want to go about that. But pretty cool feature here at the Lines/odds. And of course, this is something we'll continually update, continue to make better as well throughout the course of the NFL season. So be sure and take advantage of all of that stuff. And of course, if you're new to sports betting, completely new to sports betting, you can head here to the Lines and all of these things. You can click the video tab. You can click on the betting tab right here. You can see all of these different terms, lots of explanations on how things are going in the sports betting world. All right. Be sure to subscribe, rate, review while you are here. Really appreciate your support in all of this. Trying to give you some information that you can actually use to make a bet that you feel good about, not going to tell you any locks of the week, not going to jump up and down and say that this is exactly what's going to happen, but just trying to run through each game, give you a thought process, and hopefully you come to the conclusion that you wanted to come to anyway as we go through this stuff. Of course, taking a look at this game here, weather, no concerns whatsoever. This is in the Dome in New Orleans, so it is going to be perfect weather here. The Saints are coming off of complete heartbreaker, obviously, as you know, that non-pass interference call, which ended up getting the pass interference rules changed in the NFL. That's neither here nor there, but again, certainly 2 years in a row, heartbreakers. Of course, the Vikings, that missed tackle, Vikings go on, win that game, and then, of course, this missed pass interference. So 2 years in a row, Saints have been booted from the playoffs with really just soul-crushing experiences here. Mark Ingram now out of town. He is in Baltimore. In comes Latavius Murray to take over that role. They still are adamant about the fact that they don't want to get Kamara too many touches. They don't want to get him beat up. They want to make sure that he's healthy throughout the course of the season, hopefully in for a playoff run as well. So expect to see a decent amount of Latavius Murray, just as we saw a decent amount of Mark Ingram whenever he was there. They also added tight end Jared Cook to help on the offensive side there for Drew Brees, who hadn't really had a big-time tight end to throw to since we saw that Jimmy Graham was in town over there. The Texans coming off a pretty strange season. If you remember, they won a lot of games last year, a lot of games they probably shouldn't have won, but ended up as wins in the win column anyway there for this team. Of course, the offseason was all kinds of weird for this team. Lost Lamar Miller to an ACL and MCL injury, so he's gone for the season. In comes Duke Johnson and also Carlos Hyde, who are going to take over as the running back roles there. I'll scroll down a little bit on the page here if you want to try and read along here a little bit on this one. They acquired tackle Laramie Tunsil from the Dolphins. Of course, they really needed a ton of offensive line help. I mean, this is a team where Deshaun Watson at one point last year had to take a bus to a game because he could not fly because his ribs were so messed up from getting hit so often that they were afraid something was going to go wrong with him or whatever. But I'm sure you remember the story. Dude had to take a bus to a game because he couldn't fly because he had gotten beat up so incredibly bad. They also got Kenny Stills in that deal, so he comes over from Miami as well. They also traded Jadeveon Clowney out of town over to Seattle. Of course, he was having all kinds of contract issues there, so that's what we were getting with Jadeveon Clowney. He was never going to play for the team. Anyway, taking a look at the lines here, heading over to DraftKings, you can see right here we have the Saints -6.5, +6.5 for the Texans. We have a total of 52.5 in this one. Money line, Saints -286, coming back +245 on the Texans at William Hill over in New Jersey. We're still looking at that 6.5 line here. 290, 245 on the money line, 52. So there's no hook on the total there at William Hill. Over at FanDuel, we'll pop over this. 6.5 as well here, 280 and 235 on the money line, 52.5 there at FanDuel. So if you're looking for trying to bet the over in this one, you're going to want to head over to William Hill where you don't have to worry about that pesky hook. And of course, if you're looking for the best return on the Texans money line, looks to be here at DraftKings. 58% of the bets have actually been on the Saints, but 60% of the money has been on the Texans so far as we record this early Monday morning. Of course, this could change throughout the day. As we get further into, closer to game time, people might start getting that itch and we can see this move a little bit. But as we sit, that's kind of how the breakdown is right now. Saints pretty healthy heading into this one. On the Texan side, really the only thing they're looking at, Kiki Kuti, their slot wide receiver, dealing with a high ankle sprain. So even if he is able to go, likely to be pretty limited. So he was limited in practice all week long. So might not make a big impact there for the Texans. On the offensive side of the ball here, flip back to this. You can read along on the page there on PlayPicks. Saints want to be a run-first team here. Obviously, this is a team that averaged 4.6 yards per carry last year with Kamara, Ingram. I don't think it's a big downgrade to bring in Latavius Murray. I think maybe it's even an upgrade in some fashion there. So for me, feel perfectly fine about this. Last season, Saints ranked 29th in pass percentage and 4th in rush percentage, just to let you know how much this team does definitely want to run the ball. It's not that run and gun team of old of the Saints that you kind of got used to seeing every week with Drew Brees as he's gotten a little bit older and as they've gotten just more talent at that running back position. They are going to certainly use it. On the Texan side of the ball, assuming Kiki Kuti doesn't, let's just assume he doesn't go tonight or he's just extremely limited, you're still rolling out DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, and Kenny Stills in this thing. So, I mean, he's still a ton of talent there at wide receiver. Of course, we have a healthy Will Fuller yet again. How long that lasts, we'll see. But again, at least to start the season, we have a healthy Will Fuller here, which is so huge. Him and Deshaun Watson have had a just unbelievable connection when both have actually been on the field together. Tons of yards, tons of touchdowns. The problem is they've just not been on the field together very much due to injuries for either guy. So they will be on the field at least to start the game tonight. Houston's offensive line, though, this has just been the case. We talked about how battered Deshaun Watson was. I mean, they allowed sacks, league worst, 10.5% of dropbacks last year. So 1 in 10 times that Deshaun Watson dropped back, he was getting sacked last year. So you can't get by on that. Needs to get this guy a lot better protection. And they went out and got Laramie Tunstall to try to get that done. Offensive line's still a work in progress there, though, for the Texans. If we're looking at pace in this game, this looks like it's going to be a pretty fast-paced game, actually, both in the top half of the league in pace statistics last year. On the defensive side of the ball, Saints third DVOA against the run last year, returned nearly everyone on that side of the ball that has anything to do with that statistic. Does not really bode all that well for Duke Johnson and Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde just getting to the team a couple of weeks ago here. And of course, Duke Johnson really no more for his pass catching than his actual run ability. On the flip side here, as good as they were against the run, maybe not equally as disappointing actually against the pass. They were 22nd DVOA against the pass, this Saints team. And, of course, we just mentioned the 3 very, very good wide receivers that the Texans are likely to roll out in this one. Texans' first DVOA against the run last season, but Jadeveon Clowney out of town. Of course, he was a better run stopper than actually a pass rusher anyway. So a little bit of regression likely to set in for this Texans run defense. 19th DVOA against the pass for this unit. As mentioned, no more Jadeveon Clowney, but also no more Tyrann Mathieu. No more Kareem Jackson as well. Both of those guys are gone. So you expect a little bit of a step back here for this Texans defense. Now, let's make a case for the over in this one. We'll flip back to the odds here. You see 52.5. If we were going to do that, obviously, if you're going to play the over, we would head over here to not have to worry about the hook. So at 52, if we're going to make the case for the over here, this is just the fact that these defenses both take a step back this year. Both offenses still very good. Both offenses still full of playmakers. And this game ends up turning into a track meet. We've seen it happen tons of times in the Superdome down in New Orleans. The Saints, one of the weird teams that actually allow more points at home to opposing teams than they do on the road to opposing teams. And, a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that it's a really good playing environment for all involved. Obviously, perfect weather, perfect conditions, everything like that, especially when we get to the colder months and the winter months and the wind months and things later in the season. But also it could just be for the fact that the Saints score a lot more at home and then the other teams score back, more possessions and whatnot there. So, really and truly what we're looking at here is just case for the over being the fact that these are two really good offenses with lots of playmakers on both sides, with two defenses that played really, really well last year and really have the only place they can go is down and have to regress a little bit here. So case for the under in this one. Of course, we would do that at DraftKings or FanDuel because we'll take that hook if we're going to try and play the under in this thing, is the fact that the Saints want to be a run-first team here. So the Saints can control the ball, keep the ball away from Deshaun Watson and the rest of that crazy talented wide receiving core that they have going on. The Texans are unable to get anything going on the ground whatsoever, so the Saints know that they're going to pass the ball all the time. This defense basically just loads up on trying to make sure that this receiving core does not take them down here. And so for me, that's kind of how I see this thing going under, is the Saints kind of establish their will on the ground. Latavius Murray and Kamara, and Drew Brees doesn't have to put the ball in the air very much. This clock keeps ticking. And we see kind of an under total here because basically we're reducing the amount of possessions that both teams have and opportunities for them to score in the game. One of the player props that jumps out to me here, if we take a look down here, of course, we talked about how much we believe that we want to, that we believe that this Saints team is run first here. And then they come out with Drew Brees, 287.5 as far as the over under for his total passing yards. Let's see what it is over at FanDuel. Drew Brees passing yards, 285 over here. So, of course, if we wanted to take the under, we would do that at DraftKings. One of the interesting things about this is from week 7 on last year, Drew Brees topped 287 only 3 times, did not top it 7 times. So, again, really is going to depend on game flow here. But if you believe that the Saints are going to play well here, keep this game close and really control kind of how the pace of this thing goes, then you might be leaning towards the under in this one. If you think this thing gets out of hand, maybe the Texans get up a couple of scores in this deal and they start having to get a firefight going down there in the Superdome, then you're going to want to look at maybe the over on that. And then this is where you'd want to play that over at FanDuel, getting a couple of yards fewer over there. As far as the bets go in this one, I kind of lean towards this being a close game here. I do believe that this Saints defense is vulnerable through the air. This secondary certainly vulnerable through the air. And then on top of that, you have a healthy unit here for the Texans for the first time in a long time. You have all of them. You have Watkins, Hopkins, Fuller, all healthy here. And you add in Kenny Stills. Duke Johnson, if Kiki Kuti can't go, Duke Johnson might actually play some slot. Like I said, I mean, much more of a pass catcher than an actual running back as far as he goes. And so for me, I kind of look at maybe him filling in the slot there and actually having some success as well for this team there out of the slot. Now, I would really have loved to get 7, and that 7 might still show up. Again, there's actually a couple books in Vegas where 7 is still showing up. So if I would really, really prefer to get that key number of 7 on the Texans here, I still lean at 6.5, taking the points here with this team. Again, I just think that they're going to be able to put some points up against this Saints team here. Really, the play I'm kind of looking at is the over in this one. And I understand there's been some money coming in on the under in this thing, but the more I look at this, the more I believe that these teams are going to be able to score on one another. We already mentioned if they live up to form. And again, we have to speculate on kind of how this is going to play out. But if they live up to form like they did last year, both were in the top half of the league in pace. So we expect them to get up there, run some plays in game neutral situations where, they're not just messing around, bleeding the clock down. They're kind of getting this thing going, which increase the amount of plays that are running, increase the amount of possessions each team has, and of course increases the opportunity to put points on the board there. I really like the under here. And if this is one of those deals where you want to even do a teaser or something like that, I do not hate that at all either. So that's kind of how I'm going to play this game here. If this thing gets to 7, I'll take the Texans at 7. It looks like, again, in Vegas, a couple places it's 7. Maybe the Saints money comes in a little bit later here, but I'm going to look to play the over here, kind of be a little contrarian. I know there's a lot of people on the under out there, but the way this game kind of shapes up to me, seems like there's going to be points scored. Seems like there's a bad matchup pretty much in the secondary for both teams. I think they could have some success through the air on both sides of the ball here. So that's how I'm going to look at it, guys. And hopefully something along this video either changed your outlook on how this game might go, or maybe just confirmed one of the biases and confirmed one of the ways you wanted to play this game. Anyway, please subscribe, rate, and review. Tell us who you're playing, all the things like that in the below right now. Love to see if you're playing the Saints, playing the Texans, you're playing the over, playing the under. Just let us know even how your weekend went. Maybe you're playing the late Monday night game that we'll talk about in another video as well. Appreciate it, guys. Good luck.